Good afternoon, everybody. Saitlanders, how are you? We hope that you're well. If you don't mind, during this video, I'm going to look away from the camera to check my facts as I speak to you. Do you remember that we did a video some time ago reporting on an article in Marula Media about, well, it was entitled Kommer oor ontstaan van polisiestaat. And it was all about the new National Security Council and the National Security Secretariat that had been empowered and promulgated by Cyril Ramaphosa in the Staatskoerant, what do you call it, the Government Gazette of the 10th of March. So on the 10th of March, it was gazetted that Cyril Ramaphosa had empowered or enacted and promulgated the erection of these two organs of state, National Security Council and National Security Secretariat. And we told you that, for instance, in the National Security Council, there would be military veterans, and that the job of the National Security Council was to coordinate all South Africa's security and intelligence apparatus, all of them. And we said, this means that we're effectively governed by this unconstitutional, and it is unconstitutional, this pair of organs of state that have just been declared by the president, that have been erected by fiat, rather than through an act of parliament or a change in the constitution or something like that. And we were very concerned about it. Now, I'm going to remind you of something that came out a couple of days ago, and that is the Democratic Alliance exposes top secret government document that suggests a massive ANC power grab. And I'll take you to, in paragraph 1, we're now quoting the document. It talks about the macro reorganization of the state and proposes to make the command council system a model for government beyond the lockdown. Why do I feel as if I'm looking skew into the camera? It then says, this is the article now, not the government document. This is nothing short of a coup d'etat, staatsgreep. The document literally invokes the phrase, never waste a good crisis. So this is how the ANC is talking in its internal top secret document about reorganizing the way that the state is governed. And it proposes using the district development model and the command council system as a means of centralized government policy making. This model, it argues, should inform South Africa's economic response, and it will do so in a way that will disrupt current and old ways of how government has been working. It will also bind all spheres of government. One of the specific proposals in the document has already been adopted. Government ministers will be appointed as district political champions to oversee the other spheres of government. Right. So it's a cover for the ANC grabbing more government power, as the DA puts it, and eventually doing away with provincial and local elections. You guys know well, let me say that today is the 13th of July 2020. It's day 109, I believe, of the pandemic lockdown. the longest in the world. And you will know that in recent days, weeks, and months, going back to late January, Saitlanders has been covering many topics which, under different circumstances, might be perceived as conspiracy theory. Many of the things that we've said about the virus and how it didn't come from a bat, long before that was advanced by any other channel, how there is a patent that exists for it, how it was stolen from a laboratory in Canada, taken to Wuhan, how the infection rate is not as high as they are making it out to be, how we've spoken about the global financial crisis or collapse, and how the COVID-19 pandemic is being used as camouflage for the true causes of that collapse, which began on the 16th of September 2019 and arguably long before that. Many other topics that we've covered in recent days might be considered neurotic or hysterical. Again, we're talking about something which might sound like nonsense, except that there is so much evidence for it now. The government gazette. What better authority do you need than the government gazette for you to believe that the president and his cabinet and the African National Congress generally intend implementing a National Security Council and a National Security Secretariat which will be populated by, inter alia, military veterans. So our organs of state security will be supervised and overseen by members of Mkhonto weSizwe and others. These are our new security overlords. What better evidence do you need than a document obtained by the Democratic Alliance from the inner passageways, the inner sanctums of the African National Congress, to convince you that the government intends implementing a system like the National Coronavirus Command Council, of command councils across South Africa to run South Africa. A system which will be binding upon other government departments. In other words, those government departments must conform to the command council system. The command council system is therefore implicitly dominant or superior to those government departments if they must conform to it, if they are binding upon those other government departments. We live in very troubling times indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to take it a step further beyond the mere notion that we are living in troubling times. And we're going to allege that this is out and out communism for which they are laying the foundations. That we are seeing the national democratic revolution, which Saitlanders has been alleging, begin to be born. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Have you ever wondered to yourself what means the word Soviet? You know what means union, socialist, republic. People more or less know what a republic is. A Soviet is the traditional representative council of Russian villages and towns. So the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was the the union of socialist republics governed by Soviets. In other words, councils put in place to run the system, rather than that a democratic a system, an electoral system, should dictate the constitution of a parliament, which should then dictate the constitution of a government, of a cabinet, of ministers, of a president or prime minister, and so on and so forth. That's what a Soviet is. And I put it to you now that we are looking at South Africa's transition to a Soviet-based republic. It might sound ever so paranoid and dramatic to many normie, as they call them in the USA, normal, ordinary, middle of the road white people who may stumble across this video a bit against their better judgment. But for 20 years, Mr. Miller, our leader and our founder, has been correct in his prognostications, in his forecasts, in his predictions. We are heading toward a crisis. We are heading towards danger and dark times. And people said, oh, no, it can't be like that. That Mr. Mandela, what a lovely man. I hope that my attempt at reproducing the accent of an English-speaking white woman from the northern leafy suburbs of Johannesburg is acceptable. Then it was, oh no, never. That Mr. Mbeki is so clever. Don't you know? He knows what he's doing. Then it was, oh, don't worry about Jacob Zuma. We have a constitutional democracy. He'll never be able to take over everything. We've got a constitution, remember? I imagine two old ladies pushing past one another with their trolleys in the aisles between the aisles of imported foods in Thrups in Ilovo, Johannesburg. Thrups is the nearest thing that South Africa has to Harrods in England. The elite of the elite grocery shops. For 20 years, Mr. Miller has been telling you this stuff. For 20 years, he's been right. We're on question number 99 of a 100-question examination, and people still want to say, but it's the coronavirus. The president didn't have a choice. He's just doing his best. Imagine how many lives he's saved. Bull dust, guys. Bull dust. You are being beguiled. Beguiled means conned. In Afrikaans, they have the word gull. That's like gull, trick. To gull somebody is to trick somebody. To beguile somebody is slightly different. It means not just to trick them, but to use trust to trick them. So, for instance, a pedophile beguiles his catamite. A catamite is the minion of a pederast, the minion of a pedophile. He offers him an ice cream. He pretends to be friendly to him. He says to him, if your mom and daddy are not being nice to you, don't worry, I'm here for you. I'm your best friend in the world. And that is what the African National Congress and the Bolsheviks, since 1917 and even prior to that, have done to Christendom. The Western Christian-dominated societies of the world. They come in as ostensible, putative, Kamstig, supposed friends. They come in as your friends, never wishing to do you an ounce of harm. And then they insidiously work from within like a worm to gnaw away the insides of the society, all the while whispering to those people who founded that society and who provide the core of that society. You're wrong about this. Not that I wish to offend you. You're wrong about that. Not that I could have done any better. Oh no, dear me. Until that society gives way more and more and more and more and more. Then they become bolder and bolder. They become emboldened to the point where they start saying, you should listen to me because I was right all along and you were never right. Then why did you ever come to suck the life like a leech out of my society if it's so bad? If it was always so bad, why didn't you stay in your place? This is the Bolshevik. The Bolshevik comes from outside. And he tells you how wrong you were. With your family, not that it is any of my business. With your religion, not that I should tell you how to live, what to think. Guys, you must begin to believe. You must begin to know, you must begin to see that we are being entrapped like a fish in a net. And all the while we're being told it's for our own good. And it's because we were wrong in the first place. We are now on the eve of the implementation of a COVID-19 vaccine and passport, compulsory passport. You must now begin to see and to believe, to know that we are on the very eve of the implementation of a Soviet style of government. So much so that whether you like it or not, whether you think Simon Roche and Saitlanders and Gustav, they're all crazy. So much so that it was published, it was gazetted in the government gazette of the 10th of March 2020. When will you begin to believe that your eyes do not lie? That what you're seeing transpire in the world around you is true, and that what the media is saying, namely that you're blind and that your eyes lie to you and that it's not happening that way, is a lie. When? We are on the very eve of a Soviet system of government, replete with command councils and district champions, i.e., political commissars. All right, everybody. Enough for today. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.